Now, the cartoon community are kind of going crazy with a specific question on Twitter/X from the channel called Chipple. They asked, could Milo Murphy survive all the Final Destination movies? Why or why not? A very simple question, but the question is just sort of vague enough that asking you what is your interpretation of this question if you can figure it out if you can survive, in other words. In a weird way, yes, and that's the answer of everything because it's sort of weird because both IPs they pin up together is sort of the same idea but very in different spectrums. Of course, some of you don't know what is Murphy Law. It's sort of a 2017 Disney show that only had 2 seasons. If you follow a character called Murphy, he's sort of a jinx, a bad luck type of guy. But he never was sort of chased by death. Just sort of weird things happening around him. He's always trying to figure out how to survive this sort of situation with his magic backpack, who has almost anything he needs on the moment to survive, including his best friends who actually help him during the situation. But he never looks at it as a sort of depressing thing. He looks at it as sort of, I have a very unique life, but at the very end, it's not a terrible. He doesn't feel sort of kind of merciful because how he approached everything. But be aware, the guy does get hurt. He does get punched, scrapped, or emotionally damaged in the series. But the Final Destination, if you've not seen it, a whole about of that sort of IP is basically you cannot escape death. Death, if it's your time to die, death will chase you and give you a elaborate plan to actually die. That's sort of the gimmick of the franchise. Now you have to understand both IPs has one specific thing that one actually removes the consequences, the other add the consequences. That Murphy's Law kind of does it, but it never really show the result. It almost resets everything. That's why Murphy really doesn't think about it. He just think about his own problems, not thinking other people has own issues. They do talk about it, but it sort of resets in the show to have this sort of episode who may not have continuity. And Final Destination has a continuity, has consequences. If someone dies next to you, people are wondering, are you the one who causing it? There are cops, FBI agents, curious who you are. And on top of this, you also have guilt of the survivor who died that specific incident. On top of everything else, Final Destination, you do have characters surviving tragic events. In fact, you have at least one or two characters survive their specific movie in the entire franchise, but at the very end, you will die. But you put Murphy in the movies, I assure you, Murphy will start cracking or asking his own questions, saying, "This is a regular Tuesday, or I'm the one who making this sort of happen." Because in the very end, Murphy doesn't know if this is just jinx or something must be happening because of him, or death is actually chasing him. And that is sort of the main question if Murphy were to survive this sort of situation. And on top of this, you have to ask yourself if you follow the rules of Murphy Law or follow the rules of Final Destination. And this is what it means. It's sort of your own interpretation of this specific question, whatever answer you would come up with. Of course, many other fans has his own different opinion. Before I continue on, my name is Rachel. I like to talk about animation, not just animation reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you like how it's going, like to help my channel, put a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If not, that's fine with you. Thank you, because of you, I'm getting close to my main goal of 2,000 subscribers. And yes, I'm getting close every single day because of people like you. People who like, comment, and share. Thank you. Now let's start trying to answer this question of the responses down below of the commentary. Now let's get started. Now some fans believe that Murphy would survive a Final Destination because had been at least one or two characters did survive death. At the very end, they still kind of died because you kind of have to because you do meet the Grim Reaper. But people forget that Murphy was never chased about death. He sort of has a third thing, weird things happening. So this will be completely changed and a changed perspective of Murphy wondering, I'm gonna die, and that's sort of the hook because Murphy never really get risk death. He have chased close encounters, but never really be chased by official death. Even Murphy never seen someone die right next to him or sort of suffer the consequences of destroying buildings or officers asking him questions. What are you doing here in this incident? Are you the one who doing it? Those type of sort of questions or effects never happen in Murphy's Law. So this is make it a little different, and this is the reason why a lot of people think, yeah, he will break or actually get killed in Final Destination. That because he started to feel the effects of everything around him, breaking him sort of his mentality. But I have to say he will survive if you follow the rules of Murphy Law. But at the same time, it depends if he's sort of passing through the movies or not passing through the movies. Maybe he is in the real world of Final Destination. That can still change the interpretation of the question because if he is, that means one thing that Murphy is the Grim Reaper, but not finally realizing because if you think about it, a lot of weird things happen of his own show. The only way to answer is Murphy is the Grim Reaper, but not fully realizing that's his gimmick, that's his ability to take lives, or could be the tool of the Grim Reaper who kills everyone, but not truly realizing and understanding that specific consequences. In fact, that could be a very interesting kind of pick in the Final Destination and decide to make it sort of a movie because in the movies they don't have a sort of killer with a mask or a metaphor of a Grim Reaper or anything like that. So it makes it something interesting if they made something like that. You make sort of a metaphor that Murphy is sort of the Grim Reaper or the tool of Grim Reaper that he not realize taking everybody alive, just being around that specific person. That could be changed the game, give it more something interesting in the Final Destination. To be fair, they do kind of have a metaphor of a Grim Reaper. It's sort of the coroner, just to make this clear. I know some Final Destination fan will correct me down below, but you get the idea. I feel Milo Murphy, he will be exactly like that, but more interesting because how naive, kind he really is, and make him break up that mentality and sort of face of the reality will be more interesting in the movies because let's face it, there's always something missing with Final Destination. There's a little push, make a very unique thing if they decide to make this sort of kind of canon or at least a fan AU idea. This feels like a fan AU idea that could actually really work if you have good writer on it. Now it works. Or you could follow one specific person on the Final Destination who could be Murphy, attempting to survive everything that could be completely unique after you kill off all the characters. Only Murphy is the only survivor, and let him see sort of face his own reality and understanding his situation, how to go with it. Because once again, they never done that, at least not on camera. They do it outside or out of pocket times, not showing the dread and all the things that person do to survive by himself. Once again, that could be a very interesting take if they decide to go with that specific film. At least you can. But all of that, there's other different people opinion how this will actually happen. In fact, there's one that says if death was sort of real because let's face it, the whole gimmick of Milo Murphy's Law is that he always gets scrapped, but he never dies. Because of this, the Green Reaper can never kill Murphy. In fact, he'll probably be redoing the list or being angry, doing a temper tantrum because he cannot kill Murphy. That could be a possibility if you choose to have one set of rules or Pacific Universe you decide to go in. And this is sort of the interpretation what I mean with this question. Of course, the question does ask, can you survive in the films? And that's sort of the kind of interesting point of view. Could you use the rules of Murphy or the rules of the Final Destination, or both rules at the same time? That can be even possible or make sense. Because if you do, Murphy will probably break down all the death he actually releases because he not realized or somebody finally told him you're the one who killed everyone around him. Because in the original series, nobody really dies. It's just a couple of scraps, some apartments or buildings destroyed, but it never really confronts that sort of issue. It's almost resets every single time. Just, oh yeah, Murphy sort of jinx. I think Murphy sort of kind of melancholy. That sort of, I don't really affect me because I've seen this so many times. And that's kind of disturbing. I have to be real for you. But at the same time, it kind of makes sense that type of character will be existing in the Final Destination. I mean, that is still a very interesting concept that he sees all this death and Murphy really doesn't hinge anything on that. But I feel it'd be more interesting if that character exists in Final Destination. But once more, that's sort of my opinion, Howard. Now, did Murphy survive? In my honest opinion, no, because the rules of Final Destination that the very end you still die, and he probably survives a more safest, ironic way that probably dies in his own sleep. Let's face it, that's probably what happened because of the situation. He has this weird sort of curse, you could say, or law of theory of he's just jinxed. That the only way he dies is ironically, not actually physically with the bizarre action or violence. Because in the series, he does get hit, he does get punches. It's that the punches serve out of pocket, he didn't see it, it just sort of happened, ironically. So if he dies ironically. Different from the whole cast. I mean, ironically, he dies in his sleep. That's the only way I can see Murphy dying in a Final Destination. But once more, it's sort of your interpretation because a lot of people think that because of Murphy, he created his own sort of kind of his own being that who reappears just for Murphy to themselves attempt to kill him because it's the only way to kill Murphy, or other words, he'll just die hilarious, the most ironic way, or your friends will betray him. I think you go a lot of different ways of this. It's just sort of weird and fun and interesting because it's just sort of the approach of it. I don't know you. Do you think Murphy will survive the Final Destination movies, or he come up with a lot of regret or not? Tell me your take of this sort of question, and tell me. Then I got nothing else to say. I'm trying to say. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.